Hello and welcome to another episode of Gifting Git-Oxide. We're back with includeIf and a follow-up PR of what was already merged, which is here. So I merged this because I really wanted this massive PR to get a fresh start. I also wanted to get some other functionality that was included in it, and thought that it's probably not too much more to go, because what's really missing is me getting some correlation between the documentation and certain kind of capabilities and the tests, because that's how I would have to evaluate whether this actually works or not. And now is the best time, to actually try to, let's say, take one of these sections, the smaller one, maybe on branch, and see if the tests are there. Last time I had a few tests here that I think were missing or could be written. Let's see if that was done. Let's see how the tests look like now, and make it so that on branch has all the tests I think it should have based on the documentation. Also, as an example, potentially for the others, for the other sections to follow suit. All right, everything is latest and already checked out. Let's run the tests here. And it does look like everything is green. That's the foundation. This is not so nice. Have to wait. So here, hidden in from path, there's the includes file, because that's usually how you instantiate a git-config file, using from path. Unconditional, also relatively rough, a few high-level ones, some carry more information. But the thing is with the unconditional includes is that it really doesn't do that much. And conditional is more complex from that point of view. So previously we had one big test, or two maybe, but now there's four. So there's some splitting already going, splitting along the sections. So we have git-dir I for case insensitive. Then we have inclusion order. Last time, I don't know where exactly, but that's something we pointed out, that this has to be worked on, and there was great work done there by also detecting some issue with how, not to do the ordering. And now this is fixed, so now I think the ordering will be correct, even though we didn't have any tests that would show that it didn't work. It's now corrected, and pattern is current dir. I think this one I don't really understand, but what does it test? Let's see what kind of, okay, that's a git-dir test, so that's nothing we have to look at now. What we really want is on branch tests, and since we are in the test suite here, we don't need any test suffix here. Let's remove that, and also let's just run only these tests exclusively, test conditional. Oh, that looks good. I really have to dock this, otherwise it doesn't pop front, unfortunately. Like that. Git-dir on branch. So first order of the day is to prepare to have smaller tests. Mod on branch, and in there we can drop the first multi-test, and then I think it's fair to just try to look at the implementation and see if we can disable some code, and if it still works, then we know that this test has to be written. And that's how we can maybe just write the test we think we need from scratch, without necessarily taking apart this one, just yet at least. So that's a git-config file. So this is how I try to organize my types so that you can actually use the crate name naturally and it works well. So the types themselves, they tend to be really small and kind of inconclusive. Inconclusive is that, I mean, could easily be a standard library file, right? So that's the problem with that, but also the whole idea is that you use it in a context where it's clear what kind of file that is, or you prefix the crate name. So git-config file. Now all done. Ah yeah, fs. That's definitely std-fs. And now everything is green. Let's run the tests. From path options, it's not there. Even though from path is there, but it might not be the right one. Oh yeah, that's our one. We probably want to use git-config file from path. And the cow string. That's definitely a utility here. Okay. So that's also always nice to kind of isolate these more, and then you know exactly which imports are used where. You don't have this big bulk of imports that seems to include everything. Okay, getting there. Okay, it still doesn't pop to the front, probably also because that wants to be pinned too. And now it pops front. Okay, got it. Good. And since we are going to have a few modules, one for each top level section, maybe even, yeah, this gives us git-dir and on branch, and later this has remote special thing that we skip for now, has config remote URL. Phew. So we are going to, I think it's worth it to put this into its own directory right away so that we can factor out the on branch module right away and call this our baseline refactor to be able to get started. Oh, where is it? There. I happened to run the test just in the moment when that module was excluded. Okay, on branch. And that is now mixed, let's say. It's mixed everything. And then we can try again to branch name match, hierarchy branch name match. Yeah, so this makes it more difficult. So it's probably a good idea to try to bring these individual cases together and strictly isolate them, because they might not even be together. Like they don't override each other or do anything else. And that's why. Does it still work? So we could also pull these apart, but let's start with playing around with just picking one example and seeing if there's a test for that. So that's a refactor. Yeah. All right, and here's the commit message. It's all a big preparation. So now let's look at the implementation. So in theory, if that modularization that I did last time has done anything, I should be able to really pinpoint this real quick. And there probably won't be a resolve include. Oh yeah, the resolve includes. So that might be it. So yeah, it's kind of working. That's good. Include condition match, extracting. Oh yeah, so include condition match. Here's the actual implementation happening, and here's our on branch implementation. And the is match, that is git-dir. Git-dir is match, right? Because the other one is on branch, and that's git-dir I, and we passed oh, that's, wait. Is there, I mean, git-dir I puts things lowercase, but how do we know, like, how does it know that the target config path to match, or the git-dir to match against? How does this work? How can that be? What is, there's an uppercase in there? Is that really, am I getting this right? Yeah, there's no notion. I mean, if there's some wild match going on here, then this must be done. This must be set to lowercase. Maybe there's some other reason to also do the matching itself in lowercase. Is this a standard library path? It is. But the wild match, definitely, that's the key to get lowercase matching. And the other things, depending on how much is, yeah, condition path starts with, I mean, depending on how much manual comparison is done here, the lowercasing there ideally doesn't matter. But for this, yeah, it should not matter. Okay, that's definitely something to look at. Is match. And let's rename this right away. Git-dir matches. Breaks the formatting here, but that shall be fine. Target config path, maybe we can. The target config path. That's the config file path, right? That's the one we match against. Yeah, I'm getting lost in kind of the wrong area of the code base. File path. So it's better not. This is also interesting here that it passes options that contain git-dir, but also passes git-dir separately. Because it's always separate, no? Or is there some reason to not have the git-dir from option? And it's only used there, so the answer is no. But the error handling happens here. But it's not really error handling, it's really just an option that is returned. So how does this work here? So here it returns a Boolean. And the idea is that we don't do any of that git-dir matching if we don't have a git-dir in the first place. But this also means that, yeah, I think this can all move inside. Like this git-dir matches could be an option, and then we don't have to deal with the Boolean here at all. We can just do it a bit more naturally. We need a git-dir always, right? So let's say git-dir. Was it called like this? Or with the underscore? Okay. So give me the git-dir. Now we can get out of there. So false is none. We might be able to do to error out earlier here somewhere, so we don't have to nest these conditions so much. That's also none, and result is, it's true or false, I presume. Yeah. And this here, does this have to be a return? Because that's just an if else, right? So we could do it like this. And then we have an option with unit in there. So that should still be the same thing. And I have a feeling I want to take a good look at what's happening here with all these conditions, which seem to be, you know, this is another way of saying we error out here. Like we get out of, yeah, It's like an early, this could also be done as an early abort, but because of the Boolean, you couldn't really use question mark. But now we don't have that issue anymore. Anyway, let's go back up. Let's clean this up. Oh. That should be right. That should be right. Okay, so now this matches again. See, that's what I wanted, but that's definitely here an issue still that needs to be looked at. Also, that we don't have a test that shows that the I case insensitivity is probably not working the way it should, because wildcard matches. Yeah, or maybe it does, and I'm not getting it. Where's options? Git dir, install dir. No, it also doesn't use any information about, I mean, sure, there shouldn't be case insensitive information here. This is all coming from the condition, so yep, that's definitely something. No match slash little. Yeah, that's the path node. I always think this should be renamed. But anyway, I digress even further, so let's not go to the git glob crate. So, does it still work? Let's run the tests. Git conditional, that only affects conditional here. Let's just call this a refactor. It's the first step of a refactor, really mild. And because I'm having fun, let's try to rewrite this. So to get rid of some of these to get rid of this big overarching if condition. So this needs the condition path. So if interpolation fails, we should fail, right? So condition path. And that here will collapse one level of this whole and then it looks like this. We always get the result apparently, because you always get to the wild match. Okay, that's good. That's good to know. And here we never error out, we just reassign. So that's also okay. And that's a big improvement already. We used that twice, so only there, so it should be here. I personally don't need constants inside of functions, but at least it pops that it's a constant, so why not leave it? I usually am too lazy to write it out, to be honest, and I just use let bindings. But then they're lowercase, and that pops less for sure. Okay, condition path. So we create a path. We can actually just call this. What was I saying? All right. Yeah, I think we can just put all this in one line, connected with a dot, because why not? So condition is what? It's a string. So here this back and forth between string and bytes, I mean, it's okay. It's more like that's always something to try to avoid, because the condition at some point comes from but I think I had that question before. It does come from a string originally, because that's how the API works that we're using to obtain the condition. Yeah, so subsection name, that is a string, this is why. Okay, got it. So we convert the string into a path. I think we don't have a constructor anymore that would allow us to do that directly from a string. That's why we have to go through the cow. And because of generics, we might not be able to shorten this to this. This might not compile because it can't infer a path. Can't infer the type. Okay, so no way around this kind of ugliness. It's just what it is. I mean, something that I usually consider doing is just to put it into its own scope, and then you can have a few temporaries, and then this looks, I think then this looks much better and it's more clear what's going on here. So we interpolate the path. Say we do want to have Unix separators. So we yeah, right, we get a real path, and now we want to use these path methods to turn it into Unix separators. This is efficient, even though it doesn't look like it, because it does only do conversions when needed and so on. It's just a bit cumbersome to write, but I guess there's not much we can do about this. All right, running the tests again, and they should still work, of course. Now, if the condition path starts with a dot, so we have two things now. We have the condition and the condition path. The condition is the condition path is interpolated, and the condition, we never use that again, huh? Okay, that's good. But this also means the condition really is the condition path, huh? Because for all intents and purposes, it's not really a condition anymore. It's a condition path, and it's kind of the path to match again. So maybe find a better name, but for now, it clearly is a path. Now, since we overwrite this, we can't accidentally reuse it, which I might have done actually. Yeah, compilation times are absurdly large for the tests here. There's so much in there. Okay. And maybe now, since, you know, we have two transformations here, so maybe just put this into one. And make it even clearer what's going on. So that comes in here. Now we have a path. And that should still work. So we kind of have the preparation, which says interpolate, and then give us Unix separators. Make sure it's / essentially, because in Windows that would not be the case. And then some special check, which ultimately would do what? If it starts with a dot, if it's relative, but we don't have a, do we have a real path here or not? Oh, we have a B string, so this is why we have to kind of implement that ourselves. Starts with a dot. We would then also hope that it doesn't start with a dot, huh? Huh. Yeah, there's also something to try. So let's call it tests I'm interested in. So is there, but maybe let's check first if there's a test that has dot in there. Dot. No, it does not look like it. Good. So is there a test with a dot? How to best find this? And also relative path, I mean, technically one that doesn't start with anything is also, that is an absolute, is relative, but maybe that's part of the specification. Here's a dot slash. We don't have a dot slash. Maybe we don't need it, don't know. So let's keep that with a grain of salt and back to the implementation. So target config path, that's an optional. So what would we do if we have no target config path? Am I missing something here? So what do we ultimately match? I think I'm totally missing what's going on. So condition path, that's a pattern. Git dir value. Ah, yeah, right, that's our current Git directory. And the condition path, that's just additional transformations we do, but it's ultimately the wild card. So it could be a wild card and we process it. And the target config path, this is something we use. I mean, this is still just the target config path, right? Once we've got it there. Then we get the parent. Okay, there's just something we use to be able to make it absolute. Okay. And so I think this is better. It's better to just combine this, right? And then we have a path P, say path parent. So now here is the parent path, and then this folds, and it looks better when reading. And that's the parent path we want. Then we get the parent dir. Unfortunately, we can't combine these two here. But we could say the intention is relative. But this also means that paths that are not starting. Yeah, there's another test for this here. Oh, that's interesting. So is relative makes it absolute, does some transformation, but does some additional check again. So will this ever be, since we override it, right? Like here we already handle this case, and then it's definitely not, it's not that anymore. And also we concatenate, skipping the dot, which means, yeah, so that's interesting. Yeah, also this additional Unix separator change that we do here. Interesting, interesting. Let's see if this still works. Yeah, I think that's, in terms of complexity, probably the meat of the whole operation. Tests still work. All right, but I don't like that this is a case that we can't really see. So putting it to the test, right? This should not fail anything, and it doesn't. And that usually shouldn't be. So if the condition starts with these strings, look, we can even do it like this because it's always 2. And that's supposed to be a prefix, not a string. And now, in theory, does that work? Ah, they don't have the same length, of course. And that's a borrowed string, but we should be able to just do this then without the deref here. And if that's the case, we prefix asterisk asterisk slash. Okay, but here, once we have put the parent dir in front of it, then the parent dir would have to be relative for this to still be kicking in. And I guess that's fair. It's just a question. Yeah, probably this has to come first, huh? Just, we definitely don't have a test for this. Can we ever have a test for this? Yes, if target config path can be relative. All right. Now I wonder, let's do a little punctuated testing to see if some of these prefixes trigger a test to fail. Okay, this one doesn't fail. And let's try the slash itself. Also doesn't fail a test. Okay. This sometimes makes me feel like either there's a lot of tests missing or I'm doing something very wrong and this always succeeds. Because this whole block apparently can be removed entirely and it makes no difference. And that should not be good. It does make a difference, but not in the way I think it will. Oh well. So if I remove only a single one, it doesn't seem to trigger anything. Or am I not doing this correctly here? Oh, I think I get it now. Yeah. They should not start with any of that. So what does that mean for a path? So that we can remove. This means it's essentially this, huh? Where was it? Where there was a single... Yeah, this one. So that is what matches this. Okay. Interesting. And only then. So to which rule does that correspond? It's clearly me not knowing what this really is because I didn't even want to work on it in the first place. I want to do on branch. Oh, if the pattern does not start with, this is that. This is that. Okay, and we have tests for that because it did fail a test. And if it ends with this, we just do push string to make it a bit clearer. I think we can. Oh, that didn't go well. Okay. Compile. That should still work. And then let's try to remove that processing there to see if that triggers a test. Oop. Let's not be that rough. Huh. That breaks a lot. Great. So that's really vital. That's good. So that's tested, that's tested. We just have to eventually make sure this comes out a bit more clearly in the tests. Okay, now last thing. Basically just doing refactor of this function. We convert the git-dir into a b string, so that's a path here. And that we replace backslashes with slashes, so that's git path to Unix separators, which takes account of b string. So that's exactly that. And it does that more efficiently, I think. So we want this. That probably changes what git-dir value is, huh? Oi. it does still compile. I'm impressed. And there's a lot of two Unix separators going on, isn't there? I mean, I'm not testing on Windows, but like here, like we should only have to do this once. That's what I'm saying. So this is always happening after interpolation, which could give us some backslashes. So here we put this back. And now we start with the dot. Is already, everything is backslashed here. So I don't think we need this. Can I just turn this to Unix separators? Gives a b string concatenation. Okay, so I think this should still work. If you skip this line entirely and just return the result of the concatenation, and this should also not be necessary. No, wait, I'm mixing something up. That's the git-dir. And the git-dir, that comes here. So we could, I mean, why not process that right here, huh? And then, like, do we use the git-dir differently anywhere? No, just here. So git-dir value is git-dir. No need to bring up a new name. And we can put that right up here, where we do this. And that's what we do first, because we really, really want that git-dir. Without that git-dir, the whole thing is pointless. Okay, now two Unix separators. One's here, that's okay. This one is questionable. And that's the last one that's questionable. Okay. Then we do the wild match. Match the git-dir against our condition, which is our pattern really, huh? Pattern path. So that's a bit nicer than at least you see that relates to the wild match, that it's its only purpose. So that is match, because result kind of gives the impression it's an actual result type. And now okay, where was I? Here, the not match case. So if there wasn't a match, we kind of try harder. And we kind of deal with target config path being optional again. So we can probably concatenate these. Oh yeah, and in main by now this has been changed so that you don't have to set this value by hand anymore. So yeah, let's merge main back in to get that improvement or quality of life change. And then it's really just like the OK value. So what we are really interested in is the expanded git-dir value. Then we match again. Okay. I think I read about this, that it matches the expanded version as well. And here it is manual replacement of Unix path. We can immediately change that to Unix separators. Okay, like this. We do the wild match again. We assign and take it to the other side. I'm always kind of against having these, you know, big branches. So let's do if this match returns some, which is our way of signaling success. And then we can just bail out here. And that's the cool thing now. So now we don't even have to deal with this anymore. We just say, just okay everywhere. And this is the final result here. Then some unit, and this expanded value. We probably find another name for this soon. All this is now inline. Where's target config path? We just do it like this. Okay, bailout. And then this is not a scope anymore because we don't have an if here. And then we get a git-dir, expanded git-dir value. Expanded git-dir. Okay. And then it's still the expanded git-dir. It's just two Unix separators, and we need to do that for sure. And this needs to be, so yeah, these conversions, so they suck a little. Real path gives us a real path buff, so we have to do this. But we can keep the name the same instead of having to find new names each time along the way. It's still the same thing. And we just follow along the transformations. Okay, so is match. Oop, doesn't need to be immutable. Yes. Oh yeah, so now, yeah, better to spell it out. I wouldn't want to pull this into this condition here. And I think that looks much cleaner as to what's actually happening here. Let's call it refactor. And now merge main back. Oh, what? Oh yeah, right. That's exactly what I thought it could be. Resolve. Because it's this real path. Wherever we use real path, we're actually in trouble. So we do want ours. Totally ours everywhere. Ours is good. We don't want this. And then we fix the real path. Okay. Real path. Okay. That's it, right? That's all. And that's it. Cool. So that's a nice refactor. I like it much more. This is still something to consider here, because I don't think it's needed. Let's just say it's not needed, push, and see how this works. I'm a bit too lazy now to bring up my own VM and wait for the compilation, so let's just put this elsewhere. So what kind of type is this? That's a B string here on the left. But this concat, oh yeah, we can fix that real quick. Okay, so on Unix, this will still work for sure. And on Windows, I think it will also still work, but we will see. Oh, okay, and I made a mistake because we are still in a merge here, so I better roll this back and finish the merge. Okay. Good, and now we can bring this line back, call it another refactor. We'll remove an unnecessary, probably unnecessary path conversion, because this here already has the The pattern path already has been converted, so there should only be slashes as separators. Should all be good. And one more question. Can we, like, I fell for this, right? I totally overlooked this negation. It would be nice if there is, there is. So we can say, all not starts with. So that's better, I think, because now we don't have these tiny lines next to each other that people like me don't see. So now I look on the left like I wanted to, and I say, okay, all of these should not start with the prefix. Got it. And if so, or the pattern should not start with any of these prefixes. And now, and only then we add this here. So this as bytes as B string while we are at it. Like these whole B string conversions, they are sometimes a bit painful. What does this take? A bunch of asref u8s. Okay, so this B string we don't need, we just need a u8 for sure. And pattern path definitely has a way to give us some bytes by dereffing it, I think. So I think this should give us slices, make this a bit easier on the eye. You have a bunch of SB string here. I think we need it because that derefs to something else. Yeah, it doesn't deref properly. And it's a bit unpleasant. B string definitely isn't there yet, or maybe it's technically not possible. But yeah, expanded git path, that's a cow. Yeah, so have to do this here, I think. Same here. Just one last look. Here we do another concatenation where we get an actual path. We convert into a B string, which we have to so that we can get bytes. Yeah. So in theory, we have a parent path here, and we could possibly put the rest of pattern path, but pattern path is a B string, so this is why we stay in B string land and rather convert this. Okay, understood. But I think this is not going to be better, or is it? Parent dir, maybe. So that is still, yep, that's still a U8. That derefs to U8. And this means this is totally also, because we don't need B strings, we just need U8s here. U8 slices, byte slices. Okay, cool. So that is also a bit better now. Yeah, this one was the last question. Do we have a test for that? If pattern does not have a backslash, if pattern has a backslash, if, okay, doesn't look like it. So where's this coming from? Let's note this down. Okay, so here's the updated list with the if condition contains line here that definitely doesn't trigger. And we can also, I mean, in any case, if it's valid, we probably, yeah, what comes first? Maybe that comes first. But then again, if you don't have a git dir, we can't do anything. So probably that's correct here to do that here. I just don't know why the backslash that is contained in there. But anyway, now it's something to watch out for. And we have some additional refactoring here. We can commit. Does that go to the last one? Yeah, why not? Okay. Even though I like many small commits, we don't necessarily have to go overboard with that if we can put it into one. But yeah, that's that. Last check, Clippy. That's usually something that can trigger after a lot of code changed, but that seems to be fine. So yeah, this is something to push. And I thank you for watching and hope you will have a good day. Bye-bye.